Well, for more insights on the effects of social media on children, let's bring in Devorah Heitner. She's the founder of Raising Digital Natives and author of Screenwise, helping kids survive and thrive in their digital world. Welcome to the show.
Hello.
So obviously, because of the recent whistleblower testimony, but even before that, Facebook has really been the focus of these discussions about children and content. What have they been doing to address these concerns that parents and lawmakers have?
Well, they haven't been doing enough. Clearly, the algorithms are targeting kids with some pretty troubling content. So, and they're looking to develop more products because they're worried about losing the market share of young people. They know their audience is skewing older and they want to get more kids on the platform.
And obviously, Facebook, not the only one guilty of this. How do other platforms compare in terms of their regulations and policies with kids and content?
Well, no one is able to really do the kind of moderation that we wish that was happening. And honestly, it's a really tricky job. No one wants the job of monitoring TikTok or Facebook, or very few people want these jobs where you're looking for horrific content that you then have to screen out. So it's a very tough situation when you have user-generated content coming in, zillions every second. How do you make this into a space where kids or anyone are going to have appropriate viewing when you're giving a platform to anyone, whether you're advocating genocide, teaching someone how to, hide their eating disorder from parents, to advocating violence in schools or advocating destruction of schools. I mean, most content on social media is not harmful, but there are not great ways to prevent the harmful stuff from coming through.
And you raise a good point about the speed at which this content is being uploaded. I mean, nobody can keep track of something that's coming at you that fast. In terms of this content that's being uploaded by kids, though, what could or should be done at this point by companies like YouTube?
I think that's a really great question. I think they need to be doing much more work with parents and educators and kids to understand the needs that young people, families, and schools have. How are teachers using YouTube or TikTok or these other platforms, and what's going wrong and right, and really taking in that information and saying, hey, parents really want a way to keep a 9-year-old from having a public YouTube channel without their knowledge. And being able to do the math on birth years is a very low bar to get access to these incredibly powerful platforms. So maybe they need to do a little bit more to keep children off the platform. And for teens, what can they do to make it safer? They need to talk with young people and people who are experts on young people, parents, therapists, educators, and say, how could we make this better? And then they need to prioritize safety and well-being over profits. I'm not holding my breath for that to happen, but it would be really great if they could look at the incredible power that they have as platforms and really look at how they can regulate.
And it's interesting because you do have this gap between these young children who are very well versed in TikTok and uploading these things, and parents who have sort of taken a back seat because that didn't come from their generation. So in terms of managing responsibility, whether it's uploading, reviewing the content, the speed at which these violations are addressed, what sort of guardrails should there be in place, and where does that responsibility lie?
I think the companies need to do more. It's not fair to put it all on parents. Parents are pretty overwhelmed and they're being told, hey, your kid needs YouTube for school. So it's really hard to keep kids off of it. I will say that if your child has a public channel and is sharing information, ideally, yes, you as a parent, the younger your child is, the more you should probably be the editor-in-chief. They should film in public areas of the home, and you should see things before they go out. As kids become teenagers, they may be ready to have a more public presence. I see kids who are activists and leaders in their community, and yeah, if my 15-year-old is doing activism around Black Lives Matter, around the environment, around other topics, maybe they are ready to put themselves out there. But even so, what if there's harassment or hate being delivered to them? How can we protect that 15-year-old from threats or from other kinds of information being leaked about them? I think it's really important that the platforms are responsive when we report threats, when we report bullying. Otherwise, it's really everyone for themselves, and some kids may be really well connected to a community that can support them, and other kids may be much more endangered and isolated if they are attacked online or other things like that. And they shouldn't depend. It shouldn't depend on how lucky you are if you know an adult who can help you navigate that system.
Right, and we're seeing that this is obviously one of the few bipartisan issues that lawmakers are agreeing on in terms of addressing the amount of influence these large social media companies have and whether policing themselves is ever really going to be enough. What sort of regulatory action should be considered? How much of a role do you think the government should play in this?
I think the right to be forgotten that we're seeing in Europe and some of the other laws that the UK and other places are rolling out are worth a look. And it turns out Google doesn't want to leave Europe. It turns out these other companies still want an audience. So, I know that sometimes big companies will threaten like, oh, well, we don't need Australia or we don't need Europe. But it turns out that they're staying in these places, these markets. And so I think the United States could do more regulating both around age of access and around content and around rights to your own content and intellectual property, and algorithmic privacy is a huge issue. Should 13 to 15-year-olds, as you said, be tracked all over the internet? Even children's data under 13 is being sold, and there's a lot of documentation that children's data is being sold as their searches and other clicks and other things are being sold. And so that data is out there. It's being collected against our kids, and it's against the law already. So even the existing regulation, which is too loose, is not even being enforced.
Well, we certainly hope we see more done about that. Thank you so much. Devorah Heitner there, founder of Raising Digital Natives.